Frontline with Kortney Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests.
All right, good to go?
Yep.
Welcome to another episode of the Frontline podcast. I haven't been around for a while, but I'm happy to be back. Kortney Kenny alongside myself, Tom Parisi, and today our special guest, none other than fifth-round draft pick of the Vegas Golden Knights and member of your North Bay Battalion, Mason Primeau. Welcome to the pod, brother. We're good. We're really happy to have you. I got to ask, what's it like to be a Vegas Golden Knight?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. To answer your question, it's a pretty surreal feeling. I mean, being able to sign an NHL contract, it's definitely, after you get drafted, it's kind of the main goal you have. Not everybody's fortunate enough to get to that point, but, however unlucky it was to kind of miss out on an OHL year, I was able to go down to Henderson and play some games in the ECHL and kind of gave them an opportunity to see me and the improvements I've made. And it's exciting times. I'm really looking forward to it.
A lot of people don't know, but Henderson is just south of Vegas. It's a suburb, but is it like totally different there? Is it just not Vegas vibe at all?
No, I mean, Vegas is, it's everything's pretty close. I'd say about 20 minutes from the strip. So, I think it's a little bit more of like a suburban area. I mean, more subdivisions and stuff, and a little bit probably more laid back than downtown for sure. But no, I mean, it's great. I mean, you still get that kind of Vegas vibe, and obviously you can't complain with the weather they get, and it's a very nice area. So I mean, I'd say it's pretty similar.
Did you had you previously to being picked by Vegas and going down and playing for Henderson? Had you ever been to Vegas?
Yeah, so after I was drafted in 2019, they had a development camp. So I went down there. It was about a week long. So I did that, and then going into my third year, in the OHL, they brought me down to play in the rookie tournament, and I was able to attend main camp, NHL main camp. So I'd been a couple times previously. I wasn't too familiar with it, but I mean, I was there for parts of 5 months, so kind of have I understand the area a lot more, and I kind of got to know it a lot better than my brief stays recently. So yeah, I'd been there a couple times before.
What was it? So you're in Sin City and around Sin City and everything, but it's not a normal time to be there. Like everything's well, for the most part, I believe, was shut down for a lot of the time that you were there. What was that kind of like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have the responsibility to stay away from going out places just because you don't want to get infected with COVID and bring it back to your team. I think near the end of the season, things started to open up a little bit more, so you saw a lot more people kind of around. But I mean, like any city, you have those areas. I mean, you have those areas that kind of tempt you, but I mean, as a hockey player, obviously you try to stay out of that stuff and just focus on playing. And I mean, with this COVID year, obviously it's even more so, important to kind of stay away from, going out too often.
How was main camp? Did you get to know anybody, and how big of a help is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a couple years ago now, so I did just turn 18, so it's a little bit of an eye opener. You get to see some guys you're used to watching on TV. You're competing against them, at an NHL camp. So it was good. I learned a lot. I did my best to kind of take some of the things I learned and kind of use them in my game. I think it's really hard to put into words how good of an experience is for a young hockey player.
Did you get any pucks past Fleury?
No, we had a few inter squad games. I didn't score anything, but I mean, I think the year I was at camp, he didn't participate just because I think he was dealing with an injury. So I mean, some of the older guys you'll see not participate in like some of the practices and stuff. So no, not that I can think of.
So I gotta ask, with Henderson starting up last season and seeing some of the kind of novelties that they were trying and stuff with the town crier and stuff, what was that kind of like when he's out there announcing goals and stuff the way he is?
Yeah, I mean, I think our first, handful of games I didn't get into the lineup, so I was just watching from above. But I remember myself and the other scratchers were kind of just watching the game, and we scored, which was great. And all of a sudden, like this guy comes hobbling down, and there's a spotlight on him, and he blows into a trumpet, and starts screaming, so and so scored, and we're kind of like, what? Like, what is going on? But you know what? It kind of grew on me as the year went on. I mean, they do a really good job of kind of doing it up and making it a show for the fans, which is, I think it separates them from a lot of franchises.
Is it fun though, knowing you're not going to know what's going on at the rink every day when it comes to the pageantry and all that jazz? I mean, that's got to be kind of fun to figure out what the heck they're doing.
Yeah, you kind of learn to expect the unexpected. I mean, they're very showy. They like to, like I said, they like to engage the fans and make it a really good experience. Even outside of the hockey, intermissions and all that's pretty different. I like I said, I mean, you never really know, but I kind of got used to it by the end of the year and kind of knew that there's stuff going to be out of the ordinary. Like even the chrome helmets we wore, like you don't see that very often. Vegas wore the gold helmets. So even stuff like that, just, from the outside looking in, people are kind of like, what are they thinking? But, as a player and a member of the organization, I find it pretty cool.
Well, as of yesterday, you're no longer part of the newest NHL team or NHL organization, of course, with Seattle making their picks, but being drafted to a team that at the time was only like a year or two old. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my dad and I would watch the playoffs, and we'd stay up late to watch all the Vegas games, and I just really enjoyed the way they played, and I thought it seems like a really cool atmosphere, super cool, and at the time, even though they were a youthful organization up to that point, I mean, and up to currently, they've been extremely successful. So, I knew I was in good hands, and the organization has been extremely good to me, and I think they've helped me continue to develop, and I think it's a great place to play hockey. I mean, a lot of people didn't think hockey would work in the desert, but I think they've kind of shown that it definitely does.
Hey, when you put on a show like that, it's tough to ignore. I imagine being around hockey your entire life and your family too, it's not easy to get starstruck anymore when it comes to meeting certain players, is it?
No, I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I think I mean, I was fortunate enough to grow up with a couple members of my family playing professional hockey, and I was pretty young still when my dad retired, but near the tail end of his career, I remember going in the dressing room and meeting certain players. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just I was just a little kid who loved hockey, and I mean, these people still kind of put me in a trance like any other kid. Like I was still a super big fan, and even nowadays, you go to like currently, I'll go to camps, and it's not as much of a starstruck experience, but it's still pretty special to share the ice with some of these guys, and a guy like Fleury who's had such a great career. I mean, there's lots of great players, and it's kind of an honor. It's pretty cool.
We're
Was there
usually, sorry, Courtney, you go ahead.
I was just gonna jump on the dressing room thing. Was there anybody that you as a kid met that you were kind of like, oh my God, I'm meeting this guy?
Uh, it's hard to say. Like I said, I was pretty young. I don't remember too much. I mean, my dad played in Calgary with Joe McGinley, so I thought that was pretty cool. I think the year he was there, he scored 50 goals. So, even though I was young and didn't quite understand, I knew this guy was pretty good and scored 50 goals. So, I'd say maybe that would be one.
We usually don't get to talk to too many kids, former NHLers and whatnot, and it's a lifestyle not a lot of us understand. But what's it like to, and you said you were pretty young, but moving around and establishing yourself in new and different places more often than not. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Toronto since the age of 8, so I haven't. Like I said, I was young, so I don't remember too much moving around. But obviously, I moved around a few times that I kind of remember, and you get settled to a place and you meet new people, and you become friends, and obviously a lot of the time those friendships continue to last and you stay in touch. But as a kid, it's definitely hard to move away from a place you've grown to like or enjoy, and then come to a new place, which as a younger person, it can be a little bit scary at times. But yeah, it's a little bit different than I guess what most people would go through in their childhood.
I remember when they were first coming up with the Blue Jays, like Vladdy and Bo and Cavan being kids of former MLB players. And they always kind of made it seem like, they were kind of bred for this from a young age because they grew up in the dressing rooms and stuff. I know your dad retired at a younger age for you, but would you say that has helped you kind of figure out the game on a different level, especially having, the coaching abilities that is your dad? He's lived it and breathed it.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a great brain to pick. I don't think it was something that was forced onto me at all. I mean, my parents put me in a ton of sports growing up. It just so happened that, I fell in love with hockey, and I enjoyed playing it the most of all the sports. But yeah, I mean, he's a great resource. I talk to him after pretty much every game, and he watches most games. So it's great to kind of pick his brain, and he'll tell me what he thinks I did well and what I didn't do too well, and not many people have that resource, so it's it's a pretty big help for sure.
Any talking with your cousin about where to shoot on goalies these days?
I've actually asked him a couple times, just a couple areas that he finds harder to stop than others, or what he thinks is a good place to shoot. But no, not too much. I mean, he's another guy I can use too, which is great to ask questions like that from a different perspective, because he's the only goalie in the family. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I ask a ton of questions about stuff like that, but I definitely have. So
I'm sure that if it gets to the point where you're both in the show, he'll probably not give you many answers at that point.
No, that's really the dream, to be able to play against a family member in the NHL. I mean, that'd be absolutely incredible. But yeah, I don't think he'd be giving me any tips that night.
No doubt, no doubt. So I want to take it back though to the actual NHL draft itself. I remember talking to you about a week before the draft, and you mentioned you were going to be watching it on TV and stuff, and paying attention. But what was it actually like when your name pops up on the screen, or you get the phone call that Vegas is going to take you?
Yeah, so I didn't end up going, like you said, but kind of just sat around the house, and we threw on the TV, and as a family we kind of watched, and it's a stressful experience for sure. I mean, there's no guarantees. It's it's a difficult thing to get drafted in the NHL, and you never know. But once my name was called, I was absolutely ecstatic. Like, I think my parents were both crying, and my brother and sister might have started crying too. And I mean, I was just super excited. I mean, especially to an organization like that, like I said, especially that year, my dad and I stayed up pretty much every night to watch their games. And I think it may have been just a coincidence, or I'm not sure, but I mean, it's something that it's definitely a brighter spot in my life, and it's something I definitely won't forget.
Well, it's definitely meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like I said, it was a team that, even though they were new, I liked their style of play, and I enjoyed watching them. And their games are pretty late, so we're staying up pretty late watching these games. And I talked to them a couple times leading up to the draft, and I considered it a possibility. But like I said, it's an unpredictable day, and you never know, especially if you're going to be a later round pick. So the fact that they picked me, I was ecstatic. It was super cool, and get a call from their player development, and I was on a plane within the next couple of days, heading out to Vegas for that development camp I was telling you guys about. So it was a bit of a whirlwind, but it was really awesome.
That was going to kind of be my next question, is after talking to a lot of the guys from the 2020 or the 2021 OHL draft class, they kind of had an idea of where they might be going, but you mentioned unpredictability at the NHL level. But before the pick was made, did you, I've talked to Owen Outwater and stuff, and he said that Adam would call him like about 5 minutes before the pick was in, type of thing. Did you get a phone call before the pick, or did you react to it in real time?
No, it was a live reaction. It's funny because I think Mason Millman, who played for Saginaw, went maybe a handful of picks ahead of me, or maybe a round ahead of me. And I heard Mason, and I was like, oh, like that's a possibility, but obviously it was him instead. So it was complete live reaction. Like, you have no idea at that level. They don't make any calls, or they make calls after, obviously, to just welcome to the organization and congratulate you and that kind of thing. But no, it was it's a little different than the OHL draft, where a lot of guys kind of know where they're going with the NHL. I mean, unless, like I said, you're a high pick, you never really know. So it was a very live reaction. So made it, honestly, I think, probably a little bit more special.
No doubt, no doubt. And I just have to say on that Stanley Cup run that they were on that first year, it was tough to be like, who am I going to cheer for? I want Ovechkin to get his first cup, but I also want Vegas to win because what a story that would be in their first year, right? So, but then Ovechkin proved that he likes to party pretty good with it, so it became okay. I was okay with that.
Yeah.
Back to your OHL days. Let's start with your OHL draft. Did you got drafted by the Storm, and we mentioned you kind of have an idea of where you're going to go. Was it the same for you? You kind of had a feeling that you're going to go to the Storm?
To be honest, I wasn't too sure. I felt I would have went sometime in the first or second round. I wasn't sure exactly who. Unfortunately, I had a pretty bad ankle injury, so I missed the entire OHL Cup. So nobody had really, I wasn't really fresh in many people's minds because they hadn't seen me play for a month or two. So I didn't really know. And the thing is, like I said, or you said, most first rounders kind of have an idea of where they're going to go kind of the day before, a couple hours before. And I had no inclination to where I was going to go. So I think I did get a call maybe like 10, 15 minutes before, just kind of asking if I'd report and if I'd come play for them. And obviously the answer was yes, because I mean, my dream was to play in the OHL. So yeah, I guess similar. I knew maybe 10, 15 minutes before, but by no shot did I know like days before or whatever most guys do.
Was it tough getting onto a team that had championship hopes to it? I mean, that was a loaded team and they were deep. How tough was it to be a rookie on a team like that?
Yeah, my first year, I think we finished 7th in the West. So you can see the building blocks were there. There's a lot of good players, and we had a good group of third-year players who were going to be fourth-year players the following year. So you kind of had an idea that going into the following year that we had a championship mindset. Unfortunately, with all the players they had there, they had a lot of, like I said, older guys, and I just felt I wasn't getting the greatest opportunity to kind of get myself drafted. So that's kind of how the trade came about, and I ended up in North Bay. But I enjoyed my time in Guelph, and they made a ton of moves even the year I got dealt to bring that team together. So I'd say it was definitely difficult at times, but everything happens for a reason, and I'm pretty happy with how things went.
Did you had you requested a trade, or was it kind of a mutual like let's move you on and get you to the best place you possibly can go?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I felt that I had more to offer. I didn't feel like I was being utilized enough. I mean, it's hard to say because you're so young, and it really is an older league for the most part. But I was pretty confident in myself that if I got moved to another team, I'd be able to help that team out and produce. And we parted ways, and I ended up in North Bay. And looking back, I think it was a good thing.
How hard is it to make a decision like that at such a young age to say, listen, it's not working out for me here. I need to go somewhere else. How hard is that to make?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself. I think some of my teammates at the time weren't too happy with my decision just because, they felt, I was in a good spot. I was on a good team. Why would I want to move? But for me, I mean, it was all about, developing and trying to become the best version of myself. And I just felt in Guelph because of kind of the structure the team had. And I kind of knew that they were going to make a push. I just felt that, if I went somewhere else, I'd have a better opportunity to continue to develop as a player. So it's a tough decision. You got to move cities, you get new billets, all that stuff. So
moving your stuff.
Yeah. I remember my first game was in Barrie, and then my dad, I came home from Guelph, then right to Barrie to play Barrie, and then my dad came with me in my car, and I had all my stuff in my car, and he drove up behind the bus all the way up to North Bay, and there was a pretty bad snowstorm that night. So I'll definitely, another day I won't forget for sure.
Well, I'd say it worked out considering before the trade, 7 points, 20 games with the Storm, and then you go off for 26 and 49 with the battalion. But when the trade actually goes down, did you know before that it was a formalized deal? It was going to be North Bay, or did they just call you up and say, "Hey, you're going to North Bay"?
No, yeah. I mean, they don't really give you like options or anything like that. I think, they told me that if I wanted to be moved at that particular time, that North Bay was a team. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I think, I was good friends with Brandon Coe, and I'm good friends with Brandon Coe. I played minor hockey with him for a bunch of years. So knowing that there's going to be a familiar face there kind of made the adjustment a lot easier too, and made my decision pretty easy.
How cool was it to be the first battalion drafted in, what was it, Kortney, 3 or 4 seasons?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was very cool. I mean, another pretty cool honor. I mean, you look at some of the teams that were there, in previous years, and they were, I mean, maybe aside from last year, the team was always very competitive and in playoffs, and a contender even a couple of years. So, yeah, I mean, it was cool. I don't think I put too much thought into it, but it's definitely quite the honor.
So you make it up to North Bay, and one of the coolest things that I think happened was when there was the Leafs night, and your dad's up as part of the Leafs alumni, and you get to go out and take the ceremonial puck drop. What was that like for you?
That was really nice. I mean, my dad coached me all the way up in minor hockey, and he's a huge supporter of mine. So, kind of being able to share that moment with him and take that face off was, it was pretty cool. And to be honest, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do it, just because I'd never done anything like that before. But I'm pretty glad I did. And we got a couple cool pictures, and it was a fun experience also.
Must have been great too, because here you are like towering over him with your skates on too. So that's got to be a bit of a good moment for you too. So
yeah, exactly.
You get named assistant captain the last year the battalion got a chance to play 1920. Just what was that like getting pulled in and told you're going to be part of that core leadership group?
Yeah, it was really cool. I think that was one of my goals kind of going into the year. So just trying to, set an example and play the right way. And it ended up in a leadership role, which is pretty cool. And, I think anytime you have a letter on your sweater, there's a responsibility there to kind of do your best to lead the team. And, I did that. And, it's like, I mean, I keep saying it's a good honor, but I mean, that's another thing. It's a pretty nice honor to have. I mean, we had a couple other guys who also could have wore it, but to be chosen, it was pretty cool.
I wanted to ask you a question about recently the CHL and AHL kind of have a new agreement kind of in the works where, people like yourself who normally would have spent the year probably in the OHL, might be able to go to the AHL next year. How big of a step is that where kids, maybe who were too good to play in the OHL can finally go and play, against men or just get to that next level a little bit quicker?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for that 2002 age group, you have a lot of guys who, did well in the AHL this year and proved they can play at the pro level. And for them to have to come back for a fourth year in the OHL would, probably be a little bit of a step back. So my dad actually sent me that tweet just before I got on with you guys. Just I saw that the guys played more than 20 games at the AHL level. There was the option to play this year. So I think it's great for a development standpoint. I don't think you want to hold guys back if they're good enough to play. They definitely should. So, yeah, I find that pretty interesting. I think it's a step in the right direction.
With you yourself signing the agreement with Vegas, I know there's a lot of, they kind of control your movements now, and I know there's a lot of things to get through before we get to that point. But would you say that is pretty much the end of your time in North Bay?
I mean, I'd never say never. I mean, I need to go to camp, perform well at rookie term, perform well at main camp, and then have a good AHL camp and kind of solidify my spot on the roster. So no, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a zero chance of happening, but my goal, however great North Bay is, my goal is to play at the highest level possible. And for me next year, I think that'd be the American Hockey League. So going into this season, I want to be in Henderson, but I never rule out a possibility of coming back to junior.
I mean, no offense.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, no offense. We'd rather see you at the AHL level than back with the battalion. But
yeah, thank you.
If I'm just because I've never been through it myself, but if you say the worst happens and you go to the AHL camp and they're saying, no, we're going to send you maybe down to Fort Wayne or something, do you have that option to come back, or do you go where they tell you type of thing?
I think that's their decision. I played some games at Fort Wayne this year and I felt I did really well. I don't know if they'd send me there or they'd send me back to junior. That's kind of in their hands. I don't really have much say. I mean, I don't know if they'd even give me the choice, but I mean, all three of those are possibilities. I mean, like I said, for me, it's just I'm doing my best to just try to get better every day and put work in on the ice and in the gym so that I can play at that level and, you know, be successful and then hopefully make it to the next level beyond that. So those are kind of my goals at the moment.
I meant to ask you earlier, you were talking about playing in Henderson. We all know the crowds in Vegas are loud and ruckus. What's the crowd like in Henderson?
Yeah, so we actually played at Orleans Arena this year, which is just down the strip. It's about like a 5-minute drive from T-Mobile where the Knights play. They're currently building our arena in Henderson, so we kind of got more of like, I'm not sure if people came from Henderson to watch or if it was more of like a downtown crowd, but we started getting fans, I think, in March. We didn't have fans for the first couple months of the season. And I think there was a capacity, but I think we got up to like 3,000, but it was loud. I mean, it's a cool atmosphere. I mean, the rink's a little bit small. There's not a ton of seats, so it kind of has that junior feel, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, the crowds are great, and it was pretty cool. I mean, like I said, they put on, you know, all these kind of shows and stuff. So it's different from a lot of teams and the way they do it, but it's pretty cool for sure.
When you go down to Fort Wayne and you score your first professional goal, how can you take us through that play and what was going through your mind when the puck went into the back of the net?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I think at the end of the second period, I got kicked out of the draw, so I was playing wing, and our centerman won it back, and I kind of went through to post up on the half wall, and our defenseman threw like off the glass, and it hit me in the face, so I ended up losing a couple teeth, and I got like, I think it was like 10 to 12 stitches. So I missed the end of that period. So I came back into the third and I had to wear like a full visor and it was fogging up on me. And I was in a pretty bad mood, to be honest. I mean, my face hurt and I couldn't really see too well, but I don't remember it too much, but I think it was cycled back down to me. I just took it to the net and I ended up getting a pretty good shot off. And it was a nice feeling to score a goal for sure. I mean, like I said, I was really lucky to be able to even play in games this year. A lot of my teammates had to sit at home, and that's pretty unfortunate because, you know, they miss out on a year of development. But you know, to play hockey this year and to score a goal, I mean, it's great. It was a great feeling.
Is it hard to juggle, like, hey, I might be in 3 different places this year. I might be in Henderson. I might be in Fort Wayne. I might be in North Bay. Is that tough to juggle?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I try to stay positive and you know, keep my mind on, you know, to where I want to be, and you know, I have my goals obviously, and like I said, you know, those are kind of things I deal with as they come to me. It's not something I think about too much. I mean, if I end up in Henderson, that's great. If I end up in Fort Wayne, I mean, I just continue to work. If I end up back in the OHL, same thing. So I think those are just kind of things you deal with as they happen, and something that you don't put too much thought into.
How frustrating is it when you're sitting there hoping to start your professional career or, you know, come back for another season with North Bay? How frustrating is it that things were at the time, you know, things weren't happening. There was nothing going on.
Yeah, I mean, last year, you know, I felt we would have had a real strong team. I was really looking forward to, you know, I mean, to say the previous year where we had a season was difficult would be an understatement. It was tough. I mean, you know, unfortunately I went through a couple injuries and, you know, didn't have great production throughout the year. So I was really looking forward to coming back to North Bay for a 4th season with a team that I felt was going to be strong and, you know, kind of redeeming myself and playing some good hockey. But, you know, sitting at home was starting to become pretty tedious. You know, you get into the routine of, you know, working out a ton and skating, and it feels like it's kind of, you know, for nothing because you never really know when there's going to be a return. But once the new year hit and I kind of got an inkling from Vegas that they wanted to do something with me and get me playing somewhere. I wasn't sure where. I kind of got, you know, excited to think that, you know, I might play hockey, and you know, I was very lucky, like I said previously, to be brought down to Henderson, and you know, I wasn't sure if I was going to play 1 game, if I was going to play no games. I mean, it was great that I got into 10 games and was able to play, and you know, like I said, it was a great developmental experience.
I also wanted to let you know, if you did get hit in the face with a puck and ruined your teeth, you cannot tell, at least on this Zoom call.
Yeah, the dentist did a pretty good job. Like, I have a couple wires like in behind my teeth from
Braces.
braces and stuff. So I think they really saved. I chipped the one really bad, but they were able to kind of bond it, and that really saved. Like, I probably would have lost a good row of teeth. So it saved that. So yeah, I mean, they did a pretty good job, but yeah, it could have been a lot worse for sure.
Do you have like previous to that? Was there any like every hockey player's lost a tooth at some point? But was that your first experience with potentially losing some dental work?
Yeah, I think that was actually the second time. The first time was my first season with North Bay. We were playing Barrie at home. I think it was in January sometime, and I got high stuck, and I didn't get cut or anything. It wasn't too bad, but my mouth was kind of chalky, so I was like, oh, that's strange, and I lost like half of my tooth there. So that one wasn't as bad as the most previous one, but you never want to be sitting in a dentist chair getting work done, but. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. It's part of the job.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that we tend to ask of our guests, and I always find it interesting because it normally comes down to the same answer. But when it comes to the OHL, where was your most favorite and least favorite places to play?
I'd say my two favorite rinks to play, as an away player would be Kitchener and Niagara. When I played for Guelph, the huge rival was Kitchener. So I always enjoyed there, and it has kind of like that old school feeling. Like it's an older arena, but they sell it out. Like, I mean, there's nights where there's like seven, anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 people. So I love playing there, and I really like playing in Niagara as well. It was a newer rink, and I think their crowd is pretty actually. They get into the game pretty good, and I mean, obviously we had that playoff series in 2019 there. So those are probably my two favorite places to play. And then my least favorite, I mean, probably Sudbury. It's just an old rink, and the rooms aren't great. And I mean, it's a good rivalry we had with Sudbury. So I mean, obviously you get up for those games, but it's just, I don't know. It's just not my favorite place to play. I'll just leave it at that.
The amount of guys that have come on that have picked either Peterborough or Sudbury as their two least favorite places to play.
Peterborough. I actually like playing in Peterborough. It gets a bad rap because of the the square corners or whatever. But I like playing there. It was pretty fun. Like different kind of shape of an arena, but that one I didn't mind too much.
When you guys are on the bus and going to Sudbury, because so many guys now have said Sudbury, is there a collective like, oh my God, we got to play here again type of thing?
No, I think it depends on what time of year. I think if it's, January and it's freezing cold outside and it's already cold in North Bay and then you have to go, another couple hours north, it's not the most fun I think, the team has as a group, but I mean, every day to play hockey is great. And, however bad the arena, it's still great to be able to play. And, it's not that bad. It's just it's just old. That guy said it'd be the best way to sum it up.
I remember my days riding the bus when I was working with the team a few seasons ago. It always felt like the longest hour and a half, 2-hour bus drive. Like you could drive to Niagara and be like, oh yeah, 6 hours. Yeah, whatever. But for some reason, the drive to Sudbury was like, come on.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's our shortest bus ride, so you think we'd be happy, but I don't know. It's just something about the rink and just, I guess, just the feeling. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It just the rink's old and the boards are pretty hard and stuff. So it's just, you're pretty fortunate to play in a bunch of nice rinks, throughout the league, and then you go there. I think it's like 4 times, and it gets a little bit tiring by the 4th time.
Point made.
Yeah, very well. Well, Mason, like I said, we hope to see you in the AHL next year and not back in North Bay. But if you're in North Bay, we'll welcome you back with open arms, of course. And thank you so much for taking the time to be on the front line today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, a big thank you going out to Mason Primeau. And yeah, best of luck. I hope he does make the Henderson lineup, eventually the Vegas lineup. It would be fantastic to see him in Vegas Gold or even Henderson Chrome. If you haven't seen those helmets yet, they're spectacular. He's Kortney Kenny. I'm Tom Parisi, back at the Frontline headquarters, if you will. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about former battalion captain Barclay Goodrow, winning the Stanley Cup for a second consecutive year. Congratulations, Barclay and his family. I mean, how awesome is that?
Absolutely.
And 2, Barclay's getting paid. I mean, his rights got traded to the Rangers and for a 7th round pick, and they went and signed him. I'll break down the contract. So next year, he's getting a $750,000 salary with a signing bonus, but then it goes up $2.5 million. And then his salary for 2 seasons is just over $5 million, back down to $3.75. And finally in 2026-27, he's getting $1.5 million. I mean, you don't see that kind of dough getting shelled out to bottom 6 players all the time, but that just tells me he's worth every penny.
Well, you kind of saw it a bit with last year's playoff run, and you saw it even more so on social media this time around. People in Tampa loved him. I remember when he was traded from San Jose to Tampa, and people were like, "Oh, they're paying a 1st round pick for this bottom 6 guy from San Jose." Well, proof is in the pudding. You won 2 cups with the guy, and very, very beloved player in the Tampa Bay area. And you saw a lot of shout outs on social media from people that were sad that he was going, but you also knew it was coming. I mean, considering the outcry of the $18 million over the cap, blah, 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 you knew that there was a cap crunch coming for the Lightning. So you knew that they weren't be able to. I mean, even John Cooper on the ice during his interviews was saying it's sad because it's the last time that we're going to have these guys together pretty much. And you knew that something was going to happen. And you know what? He's going to the Rangers, who have a very bright future. And who's to say he's not going to win some more cups eventually, right?
Good point. And that's the thing. Remember when Chicago was winning all their Stanley Cups?
Yep.
Same thing happens. Good players get meshed around whatever it is when they win Stanley Cups.
Yep.
And they bring that experience to other teams. So good on Barclay. I'm glad he's getting paid.
Yep.
And he's for those who doubt if he'd ever be a full-time NHLer, 2 Stanley Cups later and a huge contract later, you tell me.
Well, all teams had a chance to draft him, not once but twice.
And they just said,
did.
No, thank you.
Yeah, until
good
San
Jose.
Yeah, absolutely. Good on San Jose. And I remember when that contract was announced, because we were at the rink. There was a game that night or something, and came out that he was signing. But the whole season, it was kind of like the Justin Brazeau saga a couple of years ago, where we're like, how is this guy not signed yet? Like, I mean, yeah, we're biased, of course. We like the guys in green and gold and stuff, but like we're sitting there being like, there's no way these guys are talented. Come on now. We got to get something going here. But yeah, San Jose picking him up. I just missed it though. What was the signing bonus that he got for his first year?
So the first year signing, he gets 3 signing bonuses throughout the 6-year contract. And the first one's 1.75 next year. The year after, he gets a $500,000 signing bonus. And in the final year of the contract, $1.25 million signing bonus. It's an annual average cap hit of $3.64 million. And he gets a 15-team no trade clause. They don't hand out no trade clauses to just everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's usually your veterans, your top guys, the people you want to keep around. So that tells me a lot. Like the Rangers, they did this fast.
Yeah.
Like this, they knew what they wanted and they were said, you know what? Here's a check. We're going to write our name and you fill it out any way what you think is fair. And good on him.
And they kind of did it smart too, where they didn't announce it till after the expansion draft. Because I mean, they didn't, or they exposed him anyways. But if he had been signed, then Seattle would have been just able to take him. Whereas since he wasn't signed, Seattle would have had to take him and then negotiate. So it was also a bit of tidy business there as well for the Rangers. And good to see him get paid. I wish if he wants to donate any of that to the Frontline podcast, by all means, Mr. Barclay Goodrow. Hello.
Your podcast is brought to you by Barclay Goodrow for now and ever.
Yeah. So
you're gonna have to upgrade your jersey in the back though, from green to blue eventually.
Yeah, well, You know what? That was the other joke too, is that if I squinted real hard at the Lightning, I could pretend it was the Leafs beating the Habs for the cup. So that was the other joke that I saw going around. And it was true. I felt a little bit of satisfaction in there when it was happening. But I mean, you looked at some of the pictures of the cup parade too, and he looked like he was living his best life. And then you find out he played with a broken hand. It's like, oh my God.
I'm always amazed at the list of injuries that come out during like after playoff runs. It's like, oh yeah, Victor Hedman played with a torn knee. And
Yeah.
I'm like, some days I bend down to like in the garden weed and have difficulty getting up. With my knees aren't great, but they're not torn to shreds. Playing
No.
elite level hockey, logging many minutes a night, and then winning a Stanley Cup. So in the grand scheme of things, I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember as a kid, I had this like Leafs video. I hate to bring it back to the Leafs because they're so disappointing, but I had this like Leafs video. It was like their 75th anniversary, and they were talking. It was like a documentary or whatever of their whole history. And I remember seeing the part of Bob Bond being like, "Yeah, I broke my leg, stuck back out on the ice, and scored the cup-winning goal." Like, who does that?
It makes soccer players look like idiots sometimes.
Yeah,
And I'm a soccer player. I've been playing since I was 4 years old. 27 years I've been playing soccer, and I know we look crazy out there sometimes.
Yeah, go flying through the air or something slight, and oh my God, give him a red card. He pushed me over slightly.
Yeah, we look ridiculous sometimes, but it is what it is. Moving on from Barclay, and congratulations again to him. The Troops unveiling their preseason schedule, 4 games, which is usually the norm, and they feature the Owen Sound Attack and Ottawa 67s, a couple of home and aways with both teams. And I remember my first ever battalion game was a preseasoner against Owen Sound.
Yep.
So it always brings back some fun memories. But I like the variety of players you see in these exhibition games and how you get to see, like this time around, we'll get to see just how far a lot of them have come.
Yep. No, exactly.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing what guys like Ty Nelson, Outwater, and the rest of the gang just have to offer in everything. Because it's been the whole year. It wouldn't shock me. The first game is a Saturday, September 18th, 2:00 at the Gardens. But I'm just not sure what kind of fan reception there would be. But it wouldn't shock me if we were allowed to go to the game, if it was a fairly substantial crowd for a preseason game, if we can go.
Well, assuming things stay the way they do, I think you can have 1,000 people indoors right now for an event like that. I'm pretty sure. I know the Jays can have 15,000 here when they come home because they're an outdoor venue, even if the roof is closed. And I will be going to a Jays game. I miss them dearly. But anyways, yeah, so I think you can have 1,000 people as of right now. Who knows what it's going to look like mid-September? It's, late July at this point. So could very well be a difference thing. But the thing that's really interesting to me is can't play any Western Conference teams in the regular season, but the Owen Sound Attack home and home, that's okay.
It's an odd one to me, but maybe just because of geographical convenience.
Yeah.
But you would imagine, I always wonder why Owen Sound too. I've never actually
It's always Owen Sound.
Why the Attack, and maybe because they don't see him that often. The travel to Owen Sound is not that easy, by the way.
No,
if
it's
you've never been.
Way out of the way.
And yeah, unless you like ferry it from Manitoulin Island.
And even
then,
that,
I've done that once a whiles back, and it's it's not a short process.
no.
So yeah, I always wonder, maybe they want to keep like the mystique of Sudbury coming to town, like save it for the regular season, or the Greyhounds even, or Barrie.
Yeah.
Or heck, even play like Rouen-Noranda or Val-d'Or in the Quebec League.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Ottawa some years have played Gatineau.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why not? It's essentially, if you were a bird flying over, you'd think it's the same city anyways. But yeah, I was just gonna say, and plus, ferrying over from the Manitoulin Islands not really available to you in the middle of winter, but it's gorgeous though. If you've ever been on the Chichimon, it's definitely a fun little
Oh,
trip.
goodness, it's a beautiful trip. I loved it. That's the reason. That's The first time I ever ended up in Espanola is because I took the ferry. And I was like, oh, Espanola. How about
Yeah.
that? It does exist.
There is a
Think it was
town.
real.
And
That's
then
when I was a
there's
kid, though.
yeah. Total sidetrack, but I actually had applied for a job in Little Current on the Manitoulin Island, and I went there for an interview and everything.
Cool.
That was a long time ago, like getting out of college, but yeah, it was for a little radio station there, and actually in a roundabout way, or now we're just completely derailed on this conversation. We'll use our little going off topic stinger here, but my great grandmother met my great grandfather at Little Current because she was living there and he was working on the railway. So coming from Manitoulin Island, apparently that's where I'm from, but
How serendipitous would that have been?
exactly. But yeah, no, so we're gonna see Owen Sound, we're gonna see Ottawa. Ottawa will be great because it'll be interesting to see how much the Titans have either been depleted or kind of maybe, well, Jack Quinn could be back. I'm not sure how many games he played in the AHL this year, so he'll be a beast depending on his situation, if he's back with the 67s or not.
They have a new head coach.
They
Dave
have
Cameron.
Yeah. He coached Ottawa, like the Sens, didn't he, at some point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was other things that happened. Andre Turingay has gone to the Arizona Coyotes. So things are changing for the 67s. You kind of look at the 67s and the Firebirds, you kind of feel sorry for them that things happened the way they did because they were like putting together some really good teams. But at the same time, go Troops, go. Number one team.
We'd also be remiss before we go to mention the home opener, October 7th, 7 o'clock versus the Peterborough Petes. That's going to be a fun time. Next game is the next night, October 8th. Sioux Greyhounds in Sault Ste. Marie, 7:07 game time. I'm looking forward to it.
Tom, it is looking like you're going to get a chance to see them in person too, so that's going to be exciting.
I hope so. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
It's going to be very exciting to actually be able to go to a live event again. Also, another thing that I wanted to point out, you can go back and check out this episode for yourself if you want, if you're interested in kind of curious about things. The battalion are looking for billets, and we have an episode with billet families, Tom Martineau and Deidre Bannerman, who have had Calvin Gomes, Zach Shankar, and Luke Moncada, and they go over anything and everything you could possibly, any questions you have, listen to that episode. They'll tell you everything in that episode, because anything that you basically need, they talk about in that. So if you are slightly interested in being a billet for the battalion, now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, they go over everything from making food to dealing with the other kids' parents to having the other players over and everything else in between. So yeah, we've got that up on all over the place.
Everything.
Actually, I'll tell you in just a second where you can find all of our fun stuff. If you're watching this on Kojiko, you can watch the full episodes on YouTube now. You can see our mugs, which it's a good thing YouTube's free. Anyhow, we want to say thank you to Mason Primeau for joining us today, and Ben Sargent, our intrepid producer, for making us sound so fantastic. He's Kortney Kenny. I'm Tom Parisi. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Podcasts. And anytime the battalion do some social media, you better believe we're hanging around on the back end too. So for the Frontline podcast, this was a lot of fun, and we're going to do it again sometime.